Welcome to the Anagama Kiln here on the campus of the University of Montevallo. I'm Tamika McCoy.
And I'm Megan Collins.
And today, Dr. Meyer and his team will be firing the kiln known as Fat Bastard.
We'll have live coverage of the sake ceremony as well as the lighting of the kiln. We'll also be talking with some of the artists and hearing some of the past stories of the kiln, and we'll also learn about some of the pottery that has been placed inside of it.
Now remember, you can email us anytime during the show at kilncast@montevallo.edu, and we'll read and answer your questions live.
On behalf of that team and the University of Montevallo, would like to welcome everyone watching on the web. Welcome. It'll be a real interesting journey, I hope.
Now let's take a look at the kiln. In case you missed the last show, here's a closer look for you and a chance to meet Fat Bastard.
Okay, what I thought we'd do is talk about the different parts of the kiln, and where I'm standing now is the main firebox. This is the door, so it's counterweighted with a sophisticated operation that you see here. Luckily that cinder block weighs about as much as the door. Inside there's an area without work in it that's about 3 feet long and about 2.5 feet wide. To make sure that the work doesn't get hit directly with the oncoming logs. An enormous mound of coals is here, so the coals might be as high as 3 feet, and this kind of pile of spent fuel, and we could be throwing as many as something like 20 of these at a time, and then turn around in 2 minutes and do it again. Okay, I'm standing here at the side door of the kiln. Some of the kilns that have been built don't have them, and so you can imagine belly flopping in there to load the pieces in, and only having one place to do that, where we were before at the entrance to the firebox. Here we can have 2 loading sites, which is great because you have a lot of people. What could be a chaotic time as people are arriving with work, and people are inside, students are in there helping me. And so if we have ultimately 2 spots where those things can be happening, it increases our speed. There are 8 of the side stoke ports that go up both sides of the kiln. And so our loading involves loading pieces in and shelving in between relative to the size of the pieces. In the areas in between the side stoke ports. Right where we are now technically ends the chamber of the kiln, so the pieces tend to not be loaded from here on out, but back here the ash is so fine because you have to figure it's made it 23 feet from the firebox to the very back, so it has to be light in order to be able to make the trip all the way back here and be carried on that force of the flame. So the ash that settles on the pieces back here is not nearly as clunky as it is in the front. And so we put, pieces with detailed surfaces, pieces where we want the flame marks to be predominant over ash drip and things like that, and we put them back here. This is an exit flue, and people were throwing away an exit sign, and so we sort of figured any little help we can get to the flame, we're going to go ahead and do it. So that's a tongue-in-cheek way to show the flame which way is out.
Student Iman Siraj has been working on some pottery pieces to be placed in the kiln. We visited with her earlier to learn about some of her pieces and where she got her inspiration for them.
Well, my name is Iman Siraj. Originally, I'm from Nebraska, but my parents, we moved down back to Montgomery when I was a little bit older. I graduated recently from Alabama State, and my teacher was Dr. Greenman. I was really inspired by nature because I did the Anagama firing in February, and all the wood just really inspired me, and so I started doing a lot more pieces that had to do with trees. And before, I was doing my lynch tree vases, and I realized, well, it just dawned on me that trees weren't just something haunting in African American history. They also represent family trees, so I really enjoy trees. So but right now I'm making handles for my tree mugs, and this is something that I started the second semester of my senior year.
Why do you like Anagama campfire?
It's really exciting. So the first time I did it, I was just really amazed how exciting it was. And there's, of course, everyone talks about the river of flame, and then when you actually see it, you're just like, oh, wow. Even though you only get to see it for a couple of seconds because you don't want to stand there because it'll burn your eyebrows off. But it's really amazing to be part of it, and it's like it keeps you on your toes. Being around all these different artists is absolutely amazing for me because I pull from people when I'm around them, and I'm just here to learn all I can.
Don't forget, we'll be here live the next 2 Saturdays at the Kiln. This Saturday, we'll watch as the Kiln is full blast, and next Saturday, we'll watch as the pieces are taken out of it. Also, if you have any questions, be sure to email them to kilncast@montevallo.edu. Now over to Tamika.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you. Now I'm here with Dr. Scott Meyer. Dr. Meyer, how do you feel about the Kilncast community?
I feel so proud of these people. I mean, they're from all over the place. I have to say hi to Laura and Christina. There's 2 RIT graduate students that right now are watching up in New York State. By the end of the week, they'll be here. Their pieces are loaded in the kiln. So that's kind of an example of the extended community. We have a lot of people involved. Hear them, and they're champing at the bit to light it. It's been a long haul just loading it, and so I'm really proud of how our students did, and students from 6 universities are involved in this.
Okay, thank you. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Montevallo. We're here live with Fat Bastard. We'll also be here this Saturday and next Saturday with all the live coverage of the kiln. Now, the art of the Anagama kiln is nothing new, and it dates back to ancient cultures in Japan. Here's Dr. Don Wood to tell us more about the history of the Anagama kiln.
This is a storage jar from the Echizen kilns in west central Japan. Dates to about the year 1500 or so. And what's really important and wonderful about this piece is the colors on the glazes, the blues and the grayish whites that you see. This is all natural. It's the result of the wood ash settling on the piece during the firing. Usually you'll get greenish browns and things like that. And to come up with the blue and the white is just really almost miraculous. This would have been a very, very special piece when they unloaded the kiln to see that these colors came out this way. The Anagama, the technology for the Anagama was introduced to Japan sometime in the 5th or 6th century from China and Korea. There was a huge influx of cultural influence from the mainland to Japan at that time, and many of these advanced technologies were picked up by the Japanese. And also there were a lot of Korean and Chinese potters working in Japan at that time as well. So it's a technology that is, you know, what, 1600 years old now in Japan. And it has evolved. Anagama, the name literally means cave kiln. And some of the more ancient ones, they literally dug caves into the sides of hillsides, and that was the kiln itself. Of course, now they tend to be just built on a flat surface with fire bricks that form the shape of the Anagama. But you'll still see them built into hillsides also, where that provides a natural draw for the flame and the ash to be brought up. This is also from the Echizen kilns, mid-19th century or so. And this unassuming little jar was one of the most popular Echizen pieces for every woman in Japan. In Japanese, it's known as an ohaguro tsubo, which means a tooth black jar. And women in ancient Japan, before they opened up to the West in the mid-19th century, a married woman would blacken her teeth after she was married. And in a little jar like this would be kept the tooth black. In an Anagama, it is purely, you know, sort of accidental science. Every time you fire a kiln, you learn more about that particular kiln, where it's best to place the pieces, what kind of wood to use, what time of year it's best to fire also, because all those things will affect on what happens in the kiln and how the pieces turn out. This is a little seed storage jar from the Bizen kilns. Bizen is in the central part on the east coast of the main island of Honshu in Japan. It dates to about, the 16th or 17th century. And Bizen is very famous for its unglazed pieces. There's no natural wood ash on them or anything, and yet we see amazing color combinations and patterns in a piece like this. This is a technique that's known as Hirasuke Bizen, which means basically ghost images. And how it's achieved, they take the straw from rice after it's dried, and they soak it in seawater, so it's very, very salty, and then they wrap it around these pieces, and during the firing of the kiln, it burns away, and it leaves these patterns that we see. And they're still doing this today, but they don't take the care and the time that they did in the early times. For example, in this one, the patterning is all over the inside and even on the bottom. So this piece was completely wrapped in the soaked straw. Nowadays, they'll just do it on the outside to give it, you know, a wonderful color, but it's not as elaborate as this is. I'm not quite sure when the first Anagama kiln was built in the United States. My guess would be sometime in the 20th century. There are Anagama kilns around the United States. I mean, we have, what, 2 here in Alabama that I know of. I know there's a really successful one in Minnesota. There are some in California and up in New England as well. So it's a tradition that is, you know, getting new life by moving here to the United States. Not that it's dying out in Japan at all. It's not. I mean, it's tremendously popular in Japan and is used everywhere. These are also from the Bizen kilns. They date to the 17th century or so, and they're known as meimei-zara. And these were special little plates for the tea ceremony that they would have served a little snack on during the tea ceremony. They are very, very special. There's only one other set known, and that set is in the museum at the Bizen kiln site. They were after this effect. They knew how to achieve these different marks on this. So each one is, you know, they're basically the same, but each one's different in its own right also. I had one colleague at one point say, mud pies with handles. And I said, yes, but what mud pies and what handles? They're really very, very special set. You'll see the little indentation in each one. That's just so they're not perfect. Each one has its own character, its own personality.
We're here with Kate Hamilton at the Anagama kiln. Kate, could you tell me about some of your pieces and what you hope the outcome of them are?
Yeah, well, I'm just out of ceramics 1, and so I was kind of focusing on simple forms, and I wanted to focus on teapots, but with a time constraint of like a week and a half, that was a slow process, so I began throwing other forms and kind of became enamored with the spout form, so I began to throw a bunch of little spouts and place them all over things, and they kind of came to life as barnacles. So but they're all over the kiln, and I just hope to get a good idea of like what I can get from each area in the kiln, so with different forms. So
Thank you. We're going to go over to Bruce Finkley and Tony Wright.
Thanks, Megan.
This is by
I'm here with Tony Wright, and Tony, on Sunday, I know that y'all were loading the kiln, and tell us just a little bit about the process of placing all the pieces inside of the kiln.
Well, there are a lot of pieces, so it's a several-day process. I got here about the middle of it, and Dr. Meyer knows from experience what areas are going to give different effects, so it's a matter of just figuring out what you want, or the best chances of what you want. So fortunately, my friends Chris Greenman and Chris Kelly got up early this morning and got my pieces exactly where I wanted them. So it's a matter of experience and trying to do what's best for the work, but it's all up to the kiln, so we'll find out in about a week and a half what really happens.
So how many pieces were actually placed in the kiln? And you're watching some video that we took on Sunday of the loading, but how many pieces are in there right now?
Oh, I have no idea. Hundreds, thousands. There were a lot of small things. I mean, sometimes we have lots of big work, and this time there wasn't as much really big work. So there's a lot of work in there.
Okay, well, Tony.
Any guess?
Well, Tony, thank you so much. We wish you the best of luck with your pieces. We hope they turn out how you want them. And now we're going to head over to Tamika.
Thank you, Bruce. We'll be right back after this break.
Wonderful.
Family.
Crazy!
Community.
Come to Montevallo. It's the way college should be.
Pat Meyer, and we're about to have the sake ceremony. Tell us a little bit about why it's important and why you do that every time you light the kiln.
I think there's a number of reasons why it's important. I mean, one of them is it's probably the last time we'll all be together as a group before we launch into this process. The process is 100 straight hours of firing, so obviously the whole team can't be here at once, and so we spell each other in 4-hour shifts. And so one element of importance in getting everybody together is to just, give them last minute details and everything. It's also to celebrate. I mean, everyone's tuning in now, and I know you saw the loading process the other day, but that's a long, long process. Obviously starts with making the pieces themselves. And so it's a little bit of a celebration. It kind of feels like an ending of one phase anyway. And so when we raise our glasses, we definitely do so to the group, to the people that are not able to be with us, only electronically, people that are here, from all over the place. And it is a team. So I think when you start something like this as a team, hopefully you finish as one. And then there are, various spiritual origins to it. I happen to think anything out of our hands, and some things are out of our hands in terms of the outcome of the firing, that sort of inspires a lot of, customs and traditions and things to ensure the good fortune of the process. So I think that's sprinkled in there a little bit too.
Okay, well, let's proceed with the ceremony. You have the floor.
Okay, or the dirt. I have the dirt. Folks, first off, I want to tell you how proud I am of everybody here. This is a May term for us at Montevallo, and our students who are participated, some of them are only recently in ceramics, and they've done an incredible job. I guess the whole venture is predicated on the idea that when you ask a lot of people, you tend to get that, and we certainly did from this group. To my colleagues that are here from other universities that are professional artists that have chosen, I believe they call this a vacation, people, and we cover time and dust and dirt and everything. And these people have chosen a vacation here by, working extremely hard to get this to happen. I've said many times, and it's true, that influence. Everyone in the group is everyone else. Artists don't have much of a chance to get together like this. So part of this venture is simply having the time together to discuss what we're doing and to adjust what we're doing. The webcast is an extended opportunity to do that, and so we're really appreciative of Jay Cofield, our professor in Mass Comm, all of his students, who are also a team. So there's a lot of teamwork out here right now, which I appreciate. The thing I tend to say before we hoist one here is that I flash back to when this was wilderness and when Montevallo gave us an opportunity to do this, when we got a massive brick donation for nothing, when my mom and I, who's over there, when she and I stretched a 40-foot string out behind where I'm standing, and that was the start of the whole thing. And so, something like 7 years later, it's amazing to me to see how much energy has gathered around it and how much talent. And I think we're just benefiting tremendously from these experiences. Guys, this is a window that we can look through, and we get 2 of them a year. Through which we can see what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And so let's use it to advantage. Let's communicate with each other always. And I want you to have fun. I want you to be careful. One of my professors said you can make ugly art, but you got to survive to make more ugly art. So we have to be careful, especially now in a drought situation, which we'll talk about. We have a logistical talk after this is done, but right now we'll confine it to us, to the team, to the tradition. Ew. By the way, we have now enjoyed our last bit of booze on this site. Speaking of windows, that was the window for that. because we will now be dry and enjoy whatever in the safety of your own little homes. And when we come here, we need all of our wits such as they are. So they're moving elsewhere. Yeah, folks, much as I'd love to give these to you, they were ceremonial only, so, and there are 15 of them.
Now there's 16 pieces.
Yeah. Oh, there's 16 of them. Stick around.
Really? I'm signed up. Can't just leave.
No.
They were having some trouble with your wireless mic.
Oh, they were?
So that's why I came back up.
Oh, all right, okay. They got everything, though? I mean, oh, that's cool. So you're going to cue us when we come to...
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. We're ready.
Whenever you're ready. You're ready.
Okay. Okay, we're going to try to light this kiln. And every time we have a student, typically, that lights it. The only exception was the first one where I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. Our university president allowed me to build this kiln, lit it. Since then, it's been a student who stands for all of the effort and all the students that have put so much into this process. And so it's usually somebody with dirt and sweat and grime all over them, and Davis is no exception to that. So Davis, you stand for all the effort of all the students that did this process. So let's see whether we can yeah. And if we screw this up, it's his fault. So no.
Say that too much for me to
Yeah.
Don't hurt me.
Don't hurt me. Sometimes it takes a couple of attempts to do this. Sometimes I had one student that came with his own flamethrower, and it took the first time.
Wait a minute. Could have built a flamethrower for this?
Hey, stop that. Yeah, you're right. It's amazing. What you're seeing now is the flame starting outside of the kiln. There's a little tunnel leading to the actual interior of the kiln and the firebox. So most Anagama fires start the flame outside because you don't want it hitting the work and accelerating the temperature too much, because the work is right inside of that round door, and continues obviously for the 23 feet of the interior of the kiln. But right inside of that door are pieces, and so we try to be conservative with our temperature gains, and so we light it outside, as Davis is doing. And over the course of the next 3 or 4 hours, we'll sort of sneak it inside. It tends to be kind of a anticlimactic for, it looks like a big bonfire in the beginning, and when of course you're back with us at the end of the firing, it'll look more like the surface of the sun than it does a bonfire.
Well, Dr. Meyer, thank you so much. You've just seen the lighting of the Fat Bastard. Now over to Tamika.
Thank you, Bruce. Now we'll take a look at student artist Davis McNeil, who just lit the kiln, and she'll show us some of his work.
It's all right. My name's Davis McNeil. My interest would be clay. I used to paint. My garage a lot, and now I got here, and now I do clay. It's fun. I just got to large-scale pieces, and it's carving. This is just to see how fun it is to work, because I'll show you my main tool. My main tool is fun looking, because I got the spring, right? I got the spring, right? And then I got a machete they let me play with, and this is actually my dad's, so it's kind of a nice thing for me, because one of my only inheritance of my father I have left. It's a machete. But yeah, this created most of the marks, and it had to help with this and my grandfather's rock scarp. I don't know exactly what this is called. It's a scraper of some kind.
Welcome back. For more information on Fat Bastard, log on to www.montevallo.edu/Anagama. We'll be right back after this break.
The University of Montevallo is notorious for ghosts lurking around the campus, but Condi Cunningham is possibly the most infamous of all the ghosts haunting the little campus. It seems that one dark night in February of 1908, Condi and her friends were making fudge in the university's main female residence hall when she heard her dorm mother call for curfew. The girls rushed to put out their flame, but accidentally, Condi's gown caught on fire. She ran screaming through the halls of Maine, but sadly, help was too late. Condi died shortly after in her bed. However, many believe Condi's spirit still lives on in Maine. Many students have heard cries for help, doors seem to open by themselves, and some have seen a girl on fire running through the halls screaming. Many also believe Condi's image is forever trapped in a particular wooden door. The image ingrained on the door is of a girl's face screaming, with hair streaming back as if on the run. This is Condi's story, the University of Montevallo's most infamous ghost.
Welcome back to the beautiful campus of the University of Montevallo. We'd like to take this opportunity to tell you more about Montevallo and give you a look at the beautiful campus.
Founded in 1896, the University of Montevallo's mission is to provide students an affordable, small college, public, higher education with a strong emphasis on undergraduate liberal studies. Located in the town of Montevallo, just south of Birmingham, Alabama, the university is home to 3,100 students and is spread out across a 160-acre main campus noted for its unparalleled beauty. Montevallo's white columned buildings, famous red brick streets, beautiful lawns, colorful flower beds, and stately trees surround students with academic tradition. The core of the campus has even been designated as a National Historic District. So what is Montevallo? Montevallo is brick streets, creativity, college night, the Falcons, opportunity, community, tradition. Montevallo is home.
Welcome back. We're here now that the kiln has been lit and things have kind of relaxed a little bit. It's just waiting for things to get hot. We have gathered this group here to talk about some of the past firings, some stories, some tales. I'm sure that there's been a lot of stuff. So does anybody have any interesting, anything interesting that's happened at the kiln?
Well, the first thing that happens when somebody asks that, it's like basically what went wrong at the previous firings. A lot of things have gone right. Obviously, I mean, we're thrilled that the kiln performs or has performed the way it has. But we all have stories, I think. I'll weigh in with the first one. I don't know how many firings back. I think we're in our third one. This is number 10 now. I was here with two people that helped me build it. So I was a student, two former students and I stoking it. And we have a counterweighted door. And it's counterweighted with a cinder block in the background. You might be able to see it. And when we raise the door, we stoke and then we pull it down again. And the cable had worn through and the door fell off in my hands. The counterweighted cinder block went through the two pulleys, sort of like the Coyote Roadrunner type of deal, and cascaded down the kiln. So I'm holding a round door in my hand. We're mid-firing. And what I always remember about that is that my students didn't say a word. One of them jumped up into the eaves. One of them got a fire suit. It was like, I don't recall anything having been mentioned. No words were communicated. We just, we had been together for like 2 years building it. We knew what we needed to do. And I think we got it back operational in less than a minute. So it looked like some sort of pit stop in NASCAR or something. But, I guess the mishaps stand out because there's so few of them. But I think, partly this is about recovering from those things, thinking creatively, thinking on the fly, and trying to deal with things that can't be anticipated. Chris, you got one? Don't be embarrassing.
Last firing, we ran out of wood, so we had to scramble around, and we really didn't run out of wood. It was burning much faster and much quicker than we thought it was going to, so we had to kind of improvise on that. And other things like we got a stall and 2 firings ago?
Yeah,
which is rare for this kiln.
Which is what led to this is Chris Greenman. That led to the Greenman effect, which is a little like the greenhouse effect.
Like filling the firebox with dry pine and basically lighting a torch or using it as a torch and sending flames all the way through the kiln. And we did that probably 3, 4, 5 times that firing anyway.
Brought up to
more in the last one.
A couple hundred degrees, which is all we needed.
Yeah.
And
gets good melt to the ash and gives good effects throughout the kiln.
Okay, we've got a tape of what we've shown you before, and we want to get your opinion on it. So if y'all can watch that monitor right over there, just comment about what you can see and tell us a little bit about some of the things that are behind the scenes that people that are at home watching at their computers would find interesting.
Okay, well, what you're looking at seems to be the back of the kiln. There's a 15-foot narrow channel called an exit flue leading to the chimney. It's part of the design and part of what makes the flame so accelerated as it roars through the chimney. And so what you're seeing there is a bunch of stuff that we put out of harm's way prior to loading, and you can see the variety that's there. One of the nice, you're asking about stories and things that stand out in your mind. Two of Tony's students had a hard time finding us. I think it was a couple of years ago, and the students are traveling from Mobile, so that's about 4 hours away. And they came here and they were just crestfallen because we had sealed up the kiln. And so we had not put anything in that exit flue, no wares anyway. And so it was a desperation just to say, all right, you got your stuff in the kiln. We put it back there, and it was some of the nicest stuff in that firing. So now the real estate that nobody wanted, well, I kept it a secret for a while because I wanted it for myself. And now the secret's out, and it's highly coveted real estate back there. So they tend to put the work back there that they want in that spot. Lots of flashing. Effects of the flame rushing into that narrow area.
And how many pieces do you have in the kiln this year?
Let's see. I've got about 28 little bottles. I think you saw some of them back there. little kind of craggy looking bottles, and then I have elements of some sculpture I'm working on. So I have about 10 of fairly large things, and oftentimes I have a really large element. And this year I lost it in the first firing in the bisque. Probably just as well, because we have this kiln crammed full of everybody's stuff, so we didn't have room for it anyway. So, all of which is to say that you're somewhat subject to what's available at the time of the firing, and so I'm well represented. I can't complain.
Well, Teresa and Tony, how about some of the pieces that y'all have in there? Anything you have high hopes for, or a favorite piece that you really hope that to turn out well?
Sure. I'm a senior at Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm going to have a senior show in the spring. So I have several pieces that I'm really hoping turn out very well for the senior show, because, by the way, that's how I get my final grade. Can't exit without a senior show. So, and my professor just laughed at me when I said that. So.
So it's up to me what you get?
No, both of you guys are my professor. Yeah, see, yeah, gotta, be nice to the professors, because I still get grades. But I have torso-shaped jug forms that I've been doing, and this year I started with smaller pieces that I wanted to try new things on before I put them on those hours-long built large pieces. And I've got probably 15 pieces in there, including the 2 big ones.
Well, this is sort of a light year for me, but I put things in there that I typically would be very much a control freak about, and I think that's been the most exciting thing for me with this whole kiln is things that you wouldn't assume would be appropriate for this sort of firing. You just try it and see what it gives you, and typically I've had some great results. And then the other exciting thing is seeing students progress, not just my own students, but the students that show up here firing after firing. One of my students that's been coming up regularly, he hopefully will be back, goes by Lollipop. He wants us to build one of these down in Mobile, and I kept telling him, I don't want to build a kiln. I want a friend with a kiln. And by the second firing, when we actually drove up from Mobile, pulled 2 back-to-back shifts, and we were driving back to go get some rest, and he goes, "Okay, Mr. Wright, you're right. We don't need to build one of these. We'll just that's just too much work, So it's work, but when it's done and the results are good, you forget about all the sweat and getting your hairs singed and all that. So.
Right. And Tony, right now we're showing some video of some of the pieces that are now in the kiln. Can you talk a little bit about those pieces?
Yeah, actually the piece on the far left is one of mine. It's a lidded form, and then the thing that sort of looks like a baby bottle nipple or I Dream a Genie bottle. Those are both mine, and actually that drum form is the student Lollipop who. So we're hoping to get some great stuff, but you never know. Those are the types of forms that I would typically put a very controlled traditional celadon glaze or a real vibrant satin matte glaze. But the kiln, like I said, has been real good to me, so I'm hoping.
And where are they in the kiln?
Yes, my buddy Chris here got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I wasn't able or willing to do that, but he knows my favorite spot, and so I'm very grateful.
Maybe the last time.
Yeah. Load it yourself next time. So.
Well, thank you. We're going to go to break right now, but we'll be right back with some more stories.
Hey, that's a good idea. That's a nice idea. I like that. Yeah, I was gonna.
Welcome back to Kilncast. We want to remind you that at any time during the show, you can email us any questions or comments that you have at kilncast@montevallo.edu. So we're back here with the group. Before we went to break, we were talking about some of the past experiences, some near disasters here at the Kiln. And during the break, Dr. Meyer, you were talking about the dialogue that you as an artist have with the Kiln. Describe a little bit about that communication between artist and machine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it bears saying this is a very ancient tool, and it was basically a way to get pots hot. I mean, there was an aesthetic quality, and I'm sure that they recognized that there was a nice ash drip or a nice bit of surface caused by flame. But we have, in our current technology, a lot of ways that are not this labor-intensive to get things hot and to vitrify to the surfaces of the pots. And so why would we continue to do this has a lot to do with aesthetics and a lot to do with concept. And one of the things I'm interested in is putting this tool in the hands of contemporary artists, not just ceramic artists, but artists in general. And a really nice story of this semester was an artist from Birmingham named Jane Marshall, who is a retired printmaking professor who joined us, didn't know, was very reluctant to do something in clay, wound up taking a lot of her old wood blocks, relief cuts, and we pressed them into the surface of the clay, and then she wound up making these marvelous little whimsical forms out of them that were textured with her previous aesthetic from printmaking. And so I personally get very interested when fields overlap one another and start dialoguing with one another. A colleague of mine who teaches at RIT, School for American Crafts, name is Rick Hirsch. And Rick's been firing with us periodically for a few years now. We actually I have a Hirsch spot in the Kiln now. I think that I know where he likes the pieces that he fires, and he sent down a few small pieces that are in there now. And he is a raku artist, for those of you that know ceramics and know his name. And that's how he made his mark initially on the field. But he is a person that experiments a lot with ancient technology and applies it toward contemporary issues. And he has picked up wood firing, and we're privileged to dialogue with him. And, a colleague of mine named Peter Callis taught me wood firing, and he is the gentleman responsible for the surfaces on most of the wood-fired sculptures of Peter Volkas. Probably the most significant collaboration in the 20th century in ceramics, and I was very privileged that he taught me a little bit about wood fire and gave me my start. So.
And right now we're showing some of the pieces that are in the Kiln. Can you, any of y'all that can see the monitor over there, talk about the pieces that you're seeing?
These are done by one of Scott's students who's experimenting, Matt, who's experimenting with texture. And I guess he is impressing little plastic army men into the clay and making these little vessels. But this semester it was real neat to come up here because I hadn't seen the students' work. I brought some of my own work up, and we were all sitting around the table discussing the work, and everybody pulled out these pieces that were so rich with texture. So, from the time that this May term started, and everybody starting to work on things, everybody seemed to have the same kind of concept of playing with surface texture and techniques, and some really lively pieces emerged from that. So it was really nice to see those get loaded into the Kiln. And
I think Jane had a lot of influence on us, all of the students, as far as texture went. Seeing her work with her woodcut prints really inspired several of us, and also Davis with his tile work. When he's carving into them and putting his expression onto the pieces, he had a lot of influence on us as well. So it was the two of them, I think, were inspiring for all of us for texture.
It's like when you're making these pieces, you're making pieces to think about where they might be in the Kiln or what the Kiln might do to the pieces. So that's why the texture is so important to play with.
And during the break, I know y'all were talking about some of the people that have traveled here to to the kiln to fire things here. Right. And you know, we have people now with the ability with the Kilncast that all across the country can watch it. But you know, we've had some people that have packed up the car or the van and they hit the road for a lot of hours, and you know, that's a lot of miles. So tell us a little bit about who's here, how far they've come, and you know, just what type of journey they have been on to come and actually be a part of the kiln firing in person.
Well, mainly I want Tony to respond to that because he has some colleagues, friends here that I think got the door prize.
Yeah, the most traveled participants in the kiln is Professor John Leopold from Northland College in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. So that's almost Canada. And this is actually probably the beginning of their journey. Part of the reason why they're coming down here is a fact-finding mission. John has a background in printmaking. He's done a lot of work with pinhole photography. And I knew he was a great candidate for someone that would really ask some new questions about this kiln. So he and 3 of his students are with us today. And when we get done here today, they're going to go with me back to Mobile and start a journey, a bicycle journey, all the way back to Thief River Falls, Minnesota, to raise scholarship money for his college. So hopefully the next firing, or perhaps next May, John will be here with some of his students, and they'll actually be putting things in the kiln, or he's thinking about trying to turn the kiln into a camera. So the great thing about this kiln and the ideas that are generated out of it is it's not so specific to what we would typically expect of an Anagama firing.
I've always invited the atypical. I don't know why that is. But you know, another gratifying thing is to have former students here. Artist named Chris Kelly that was a student at Montevallo, and we had one of the national treasures here on a conference, and we were fortunate enough to have that person, Jerome Fujita, was here for 10 days from the Ichizen region. It was organized by the Museum of Art in Birmingham. And he gave a master class and influenced a lot of my students, including Chris, who subsequently, after he graduated, went over and studied and apprenticed Mr. Fujita for a year. Then came back and did an MFA at School for American Crafts with Rick Hirsch. And now he's back teaching in the South in a college. And so, you know, we kind of hollered it, you know, back and forth, and came to, I usually freak out and think I'm not going to have enough stuff. He is in the process of moving and, you know, postpone that for a week to be here with us and work his buns off and to put some of his traditional forms in there. So he came by and saved our fannies a little bit and is participating in this. Probably going to introduce some traditional Japanese wood firing techniques that he learned when he was over there.
And right now, as they continue, you know, putting things into the fire to hope, you know, start it spreading back into the kiln, we can feel the heat coming out. And this probably wasn't the best location for an interview. It looks good, but y'all, it is really hot out here, and it's only going to get hotter, and especially inside. Tell us again, we were talking during the break about how hot it actually gets inside the kiln.
When we're next with you, when you're next with us on Saturday, hopefully, unless we do something wrong, it'll be 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit inside of the kiln, immediately inside of the firebox where Davis is now stoking in that little corridor. And so 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Hopefully we have it fairly even front to back. It seems like it would be hotter at the fuel source, but when you're next with us, we'll be introducing fuel all up the kiln, all behind each of the little doors that go along the side of the kiln. And so those doors correspond to corridors, which no doubt you showed at another part of your broadcast. And so we will be on Saturday introducing fuel to each one of those corridors. So it will be an enormous column of flame that will actually be longer than the kiln and its chimney, which means that you'll see the flame coming out the top of the chimney.
And Dr. Meyer, I don't know if you can see it on the monitor there. If you can make out what's there, can you describe what you're seeing?
I'm getting too much reflection. I can't quite, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it looks like we might be having a little bit of a technical problem.
No, that's you, Chris. That's a reflect. Oh, wait a minute. Now I'm. Uh-oh.
Well,
we
are having technical difficulties. We apologize for that. But you know, right now things are just just beginning, and by Saturday it's really going to be hopping out here. It's going to be hot. You're going to be adding that extra fuel, like you said, and we just appreciate everything that you have done, how willing you've been to assist us and sit here and talk to us, and we just really appreciate it. And now over to Megan.
Well, that's it for today. Be sure to join us this next Saturday as the kiln is at full blast, and we'll watch as some of the artists pull their pieces from it. It will be at 1 p.m. Central Time. And thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you then.